question for Mr. David Loy here. The Buddhism seems to be flourishing these days, especially in Asia and Taiwan. And for us as Buddhists, we also want to be more self-improvement in spiritual wise, to seek for our spirituality growth. So that made me think, when we try to be better and to be learn from Buddha Bodhisattva to self-growth, and collectively we want Buddha Dharma to spread more, to benefit more people. But wouldn't that sometimes fall into this spiritual materialism that we are not aware of, like Trungpa said? So did you find there's that kind of immune system in Buddhism to prevent this? Or is there any immune system there? Have you found any? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. I mean, the idea of spiritual materialism, as I understand it, is very much tied to the kind of individualistic understanding of the Dharma, of the path. You know, I have lots of activist friends who don't really like Buddhism or Buddhists very much because they think we are very self-preoccupied. We're just only concerned about our own peace of mind, our own awakening. And so I think the best antidote to that is, in fact, the Bodhisattva or the Ecosophic path. Because it's, as I said briefly, it involves two types of two types of practice, right? On the one hand, we continue to work for our own awakening, our own, we meditate, whatever, as we have been doing, but we realize that that's not enough. And you can also understand that if awakening is really about seeing through the delusion of separation, realizing that my well-being is not separate from your well-being, then to become an activist working for the well-being of everyone flows quite naturally, because I don't feel separate from you. And actually, also, we can say that when people become activists in that way, the person who benefits the most is the Bodhisattva, himself or herself, because it's not, the realization isn't just something vague, but it's embodied in the new habits, in the new ways of being in the world. So what I'm really trying to point to, and I'm sorry I'm going on here, too long we have thought about practice as something that happens when we're meditating or chanting. And we think of engagement in the world as a distraction from the real practice. What I think we're confronted by now is the realization that practice is not only our meditation and chanting, practice is also our engagement in the world when our personal transformation becomes embodied in how we relate to other people, relate to these systems, and relate to the earth. So for me, all of that is the perfect antidote to spiritual materialism. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, I think you have questions here. And then we'll get to the when you relate the discussion.
In a lot of ways, you've actually answered the question right here. I just keep thinking of an old Jethro Tull song, and the line that comes to mind is, wise men don't know how it feels to be things of burden. And the question is how do you reach out, or how do we reach out to people outside of this room, to people outside of academia? See, we're the converted. I work with the unconverted, day after day. And proselytizing and all of the things, all the jumping up and down and being self-righteous is astoundingly ineffective. to hug the man spewing diesel fumes out of his pickup truck. I have to shake hands with the guy who hunts for trophies. I do that every day. That's my reality. So how do we do that, all of us? Because that really is the only way we can affect change, isn't it?
Hello. Check. So I wanted to thank you for that. I wanted to say I think there are a lot of different ways that we can affect change, and I don't want to accept Professor Loy's statement that government is not going to help. We need government to help. We need help from the government, and I'm sure you can understand that. And part of changing the government is reaching out to everyone and asking them what they really want in life. What are they trying to really accomplish? And to try to fight against the propaganda that's the world that most of us are living in. Organized by the corporate world. It's not just advertising, it's a lot of news media. And so part of that is, so I'm making the case that education in the academy as part of that is a major component in sharing with everyone what we do know about what seems to work to make people happier, what seems to work to help to improve the economy and the environment, and we have some knowledge about these things. And we should be sharing that more widely. And we should be activists, absolutely, when it's crucial, when we're at a crucial juncture like this where the government is not responding. We don't give up. But I do think that, the Buddhists are meditating all the realms, and they're not bothered by the politics of today. This is just our local planet problem. It's a big problem, but it's a long-term issue, short-term.
Thank you. Now we just have time for one question from this gentleman in green.
Sorry, I just wanted to quickly address your question because I think it's so important. And a few weeks ago, I went to do a talk, sort of this anti-anthropics talk, to a group in Three Hills, Alberta, which is way out there. It's a group called Call to Question, and they're former evangelical missionary Christians who have left the church. Most of them are, gas patch workers, many of whom are no longer employed in the gas patch. It's a very, the economy of their community is going down. It's very small. But they have self-organized a group to just invite people to come and talk, and then they organize things at their home once a month, and they're homeschooling their kids. And, like we asked the young son, what is his favorite philosopher? Because he said he was studying philosophy, and he says, oh, well, I like Marcus Aurelius because he has the same first name. But on the other hand, I think Husserl has a lot of good things to offer. So, wow. So my answer is, there are conversations happening, and I live out in a rural area, and the first thing is there are bridges, there are concerns that we share, and that conversation can start around, what happens to an ecosystem when there are too many deer in it. It can start anywhere, but the conversations are happening, and so I feel that it's possible.
Great, and we'll get to this generally and sorry it might be all the time. But it is after the discussion session as well, so we can raise a question there. So, please.
For David, thanks for David. Thanks for cogent unpacking this morning that you did. I'm a former nonviolence trainer with the International Network of Engaged Buddhists in Bangkok, and thanks for the shout out to Extinction Rebellion. My question goes kind of along the lines of the previous one. We're living, your talks today were very rational, and we're living in a post-rational world. And I found myself dealing with a lot of people who the rational argument no longer works with. They have beliefs, and they take any type of information and they feed it into their belief system rather than looking at it in a rational manner. And so I found myself flipping from irrational to emotional arguments with them and trying to find a common emotion. I'm sure you've come across the same thing. What are your insights?
Thank you for that interesting question, comment. I'm just sort of curious, you mentioned that you switch yourself from rational to what, non-rational or more emotional?
Yes.
I'm curious what that means.
I look into the person and I try to find a common emotion, and then I talk about that as a way to develop rapport with them and come at the issue from the emotional perspective rather than from the facts, because truth is no longer truth, right? But we're dealing with people who have a belief system and trying to break into that belief system. I'm sure you've come across this. I'd like your insights.
Well, I think there's an interesting resonance with something that the Buddha says in the Pali Canon about such kind of discussions. He says, he doesn't talk about it so much in terms of rational or non-rational, but he says in talking to someone, you have to take account of a number of things. And most important is to take account of the mental state of the particular person that you are talking to, and a number of other sort of environmental issues of time and place and so forth. But that's actually something that I think is deeply embedded in Buddhism. You don't just go in with a philosophy and try to impose that on somebody, but it has to be very perceptive and open to where that other person is coming from. I don't have a blanket answer to that, but something that seems very important to me is, for Buddhism, the fundamental issue is not good versus evil, right? That kind of Abrahamic duality. The world is not a place of good forces struggling to defeat evil forces. For Buddhism, the issue is really delusion or wisdom, or ignorance or awakening. And we have these systems, these interdependent systems that we're all somewhere within, these systems of delusion. For Buddhism, it's about wholesome and unwholesome. All I'm saying here, without giving a specific answer to your question, because I think it depends too much on context, is that the emphasis on wholesome and unwholesome will very much take account of all of that. And it's definitely true that giving a sort of rational response is often not the best way to go. So I guess I'm agreeing with you without answering your question.
Can I also follow up? Yeah. Sorry. I think that we have, we who know, feel that we have a sense of truth and other people don't, have given up on the other people. And that I know that when someone has been subject to a lot of propaganda for a long time and given a lot of conspiracy theory evidence, it messes with your ability to see evidence and hear a rational conversation. But I think we should work on rebuilding that. We're stuck in a time where there seems to be, and one of the things I think about the social media structures, that it creates a kind of perfect environment for the evolution of ideas that grasp the mind in a way of human beings, and then get passed along. That's useful for grasping the mind, for taking over people's rational capacities and diverting them. So it becomes easy for demagogues to pluck out structures from the media that's generated that way, and put together a compelling narrative. But that's still a human compelling narrative that works on human beings because they think it's more rational to believe the conspiracy theory than to believe the person who has different kind of evidence. It's different rational arguments still. And so I think that's why it's slow work, but it requires us to go back to basics and stick with what we really believe.
Just very briefly again, I'm sorry. This problem, it seems to me, can be understood in terms of what I was saying earlier about sense of lack as well. It's like one of the main ways our sense of lack comes out is this need to find the ideology, the point of view that explains everything, and especially ones that sort of fall into the tribalism of us versus them. So I have this sense of lack. Well, I happen to know it's connected with the fact that there's all those immigrants trying to get across the Mexican border. You know, our sense of lack can also connect with the fundamental problem that you're talking about. We can understand that problem, I think, in that light, which doesn't necessarily make it easier to solve.